So this is the continuation of our summary study series on the Bhagavad Gita. In this video, we'll study the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. If you haven't yet watched the first chapter, go and watch it and then come back to this video. The first chapter ended at a dejected Arjun after giving various reasons not to fight the war, cast aside his bow and arrow and sat on the chariot, refusing to fight. Let us understand the flow of the second chapter. It consists of total 72 verses which can be divided into 5 broad sections. The first section is Arjun's inability to decide and his surrender to Krishna, which is from verse 1 to 10. The second section is Jnana Yoga, also called as Sankhya Yoga, which is the knowledge of matter and spirit, which is from verse 11 to 30. The third section is Sakam Karma or Karma Kand, which is action performed with a desire to attain happiness, which is from verse 31 to 37. Fourth section is called as Nishkam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, which is action performed without expecting anything in return, which is from verse 38 to 53. The fifth and the last section is characteristics of a Sthita Pragya or a self-realized person, which is from 54 to 72. Since the second chapter is quite long, I will upload it in 2 parts. This video is the first part where we will discuss the first 3 sections of this chapter, which is from verse 1 to 37. The next part from verse 38 to 72 will be uploaded soon. Let's start with the first section of this chapter. First section is Arjun's inability to decide and his surrender to Krishna, which is from verse 1 to 10. Arjun had started crying at this point due to his feeling of compassion for his relatives. Seeing Arjun lamenting this way, Krishna immediately chastises him. He questions Arjun's so-called compassion and asks him, how can a person of his caliber think of running away from battle? According to Krishna, this behavior of Arjun will not lead him to higher planets after that and will also give him a bad name. Krishna almost abuses Arjun at this point and calls him an impotent, as if reminding of the 1 year of Agyatwas where he turned into a eunuch due to a curse. He tells Arjun that this impotency that he is displaying does not at all befit him, and the root cause of this surprising behavior of Arjun is not compassion but the weakness of his mind. As soon as Krishna calls him impotent, Arjun becomes all charged up. And he immediately questions Krishna and tells him that it's not as easy as Krishna is trying to make it appear. He specifically calls Krishna by the name Madhusudan and Arisudan, which means the killer of demon Madhu and the killer of enemies. And by specifically calling Krishna by these names, he's trying to tell Krishna that Krishna, you are the killer of enemies, you are the killer of demons. You are not the killer of your grandfather and your teacher. Here I have to kill my grandfather and my teacher. It is not an easy task for me. He says they are worthy of my worship. It would be better to live by begging than to kill such superiors. Even if they are wrong, they should not be killed. Arjun is giving argument after argument, but his own arguments are not satisfying him. He is utterly confused as to fight or not to fight, to do his duty or not do his duty, whether to conquer his enemies or get conquered by them. In that state of complete confusion, Arjun surrenders to Krishna and becomes his disciple. He requests Krishna to show him the right path which will be for his long-term good. He says that the grief that he is feeling in his mind is so great that no external achievement can pacify it. He says what to speak of a kingdom on earth, but even the heavenly abode of Indra won't be able to pacify sadness that he is feeling at that moment. He ended his talk by telling Krishna that he won't fight and fell silent. Seeing that a friend had chosen to become a disciple, Krishna smiled a bit and started giving his divine instructions. The second section of this chapter is Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, which is the knowledge of matter and spirit, which is from verse 11 to 30. From this section, the actual Bhagavad Gita starts, because from here onwards, Krishna will start giving his divine instructions. Shri Krishna in this chapter very systematically refutes all the various reasons given by Arjun not to fight the war. The very first reason Arjun gave not to fight the war was the feeling of compassion for his friends and relatives. He didn't want them to die. And to refute this argument of Arjun, Krishna explains the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga in this chapter. Jnana Yoga is an analytical study of matter and spirit. The whole point of talking about Jnana Yoga in this chapter is to tell Arjun that his compassion is wrongly directed towards the temporary body of his friends and relatives, because they are not the temporary body made of matter, but they are the eternal spirit soul or the Atma. which is unborn and never dies. With this background on what is actually Jnana Yoga, now let us delve into this section. Krishna begins his instruction by immediately rebuking Arjun by telling him that you are trying to speak like a wise man, but you are not actually speaking wise words. A true wise man will neither lament for the living nor lament for the dead, because all individuals exist eternally as spirit souls. Nobody ever stops existing. Everyone existed in the past, exists in the present, and will continue to exist in the future. Then Krishna highlights the concept of reincarnation by telling Arjun that the soul changes body even in our present life. First it takes the body of a child, then it takes the body of a youth, and then eventually it takes the body of an old person. Similarly, we get a new body after death of this present body, and therefore a true wise person does not get bewildered by such a change. Now Arjun might think that okay, they are not this body, they are the soul. But he is attached to their current bodies and separation from them will be very painful. To this Krishna suggests tolerate the dualities of life, Arjun. Just like it's natural to experience summer after winter and winter after summer, it is natural to experience happiness after distress and distress after happiness. Duality is the very nature of this world, and Krishna is telling Arjun that happiness and distress are very much a part of our life. So learn to tolerate the pain of separation from your relatives. Learn to remain equipoised amidst happiness and distress. And Krishna says such equipoised attitude makes one eligible to attain moksha or liberation from this world. Krishna continues to explain the difference between matter and spirit. He says that which is temporary, which is this body, is subject to constant change, and that which is permanent, which is the soul, is changeless. The soul, the situated in the region of the heart, is pervading all over the body by means of consciousness. No one can actually destroy that indestructible soul. By nature, the material body is perishable and the soul is imperishable. Unlike the material body, the soul doesn't have birth or death. It is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and the oldest. It is not killed when the body is killed. Just as we change clothes from old to new, similarly we leave behind old bodies and take up new bodies after death. Then Krishna described the characteristics of the soul. The soul cannot be cut by weapons. The soul cannot be burned by fire. The soul cannot be moistened by water. And soul cannot be withered by the wind. It is everlasting, existing everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is imperceptible, it is inconceivable. Knowing these qualities of the soul, one should never grieve for the death of the body. Now in this last part on this section on Jnana Yoga, Krishna speaks a series of verses which repeatedly tells Arjun not to grieve for the body. This begins from the 25th verse itself, where Krishna tells Arjun not to grieve, and the same theme continues from 26th to the 30th verse. In the 26th verse, Krishna takes a little bit of detour and tells Arjun that even if you don't believe in the existence of the soul, there is still no reason to lament. That if you think that the living entity is born with birth and dies with death, there is still no cause for lamenting, because then death is inevitable. And then why lament for something which is inevitable? After this, Krishna again establishes the existence of the soul and says that one who has taken birth is sure to die, and one who has experienced death is sure to take birth again. So don't lament for the inevitable death of the body. In contrast to the body, Krishna says that the soul is astonishing and inconceivable. And then eventually he concludes this section on Jnana Yoga by saying that the soul dwelling in the body cannot be killed. So Arjun should not grieve on the death of his relatives. The third section is Sakam Karma or Karma Kanda, which is performing duties with the desire of happiness. This is from verse 31 to 37. The second reason Arjun gave not to fight the war, that there will be no happiness even in winning the battle. So Krishna says if Arjun perform his dharma of fighting, there will be happiness in both winning the battle and even in losing the battle. This he explained from the point of view of Sakam Karma, or performing one's prescribed duty based on the Vedic texts, which guarantee certain benefits on performing certain actions. Just like a parent may motivate a child by promising him or her a gift if they do well in studies. Similarly, the Karmakand section of the Vedas promise certain benefits on performance of certain duties prescribed to certain individuals. For Kshatriya warriors, the prescribed duty is to fight in a righteous war, and such fight guarantees them heavenly planets after death. With this background on Sakam Karma, let us understand this section. Krishna tells Arjun that since you are a warrior or Kshatriya, your dharma or your duty is to fight. So you should not hesitate in doing that. In fact, true warriors are looking for opportunities to fight for a righteous cause, because such fights open the door of heavens for them. Krishna tells Arjun that Arjun, you are saying that you will incur sin by fighting, but you are wrong. You will incur sin by not fighting the war, because you are running away from your duty of a warrior. And on top of that, you will get infamy. Your enemies will think that you left the battle out of fear, and they will call you a coward. Krishna is pointing to Arjun that Duryodhan and Karna will not think that you left the battlefield out of compassion for your relatives, but they'll say that you left the battlefield out of fear only. And when they will say such unkind words to you, you won't be able to tolerate that pain. He concludes this section by saying, if you get killed in the battle, you will attain heaven, and if you win the war, you will enjoy a heavenly kingdom on earth. In both cases, it is your profit. It is a win-win situation for you. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. So here ends the first part of the second chapter. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'll upload a second part of the chapter soon. Do like, share and subscribe this channel.